don't know me, my name is Paula Johnson. I have been asked to show you how to make your own stepping stones for an existing garden path or to create your own patio using metal and silicone pans and do-it-yourself silicone molds. So I want to welcome you to my home here in Elon, North Carolina. First off, even though my wardrobe is about 90% Wizard of Oz shirts, as you'll see today, I am not wearing any Wizard of Oz shirts because I don't want to mess them up. You will want to make sure that you're wearing old clothes that you don't mind getting dirty. You'll want to wear old shoes. Cover all work areas, cover your tables, your floors. You are going to get messy. Also, just a note, there's going to be a lot of information crammed into this video, so don't worry, just sit back, relax, enjoy it, use it as inspiration. Jane Albright is currently working on setting it up so that I can add a step-by-step printable version to help you if you decide to take some of this on yourself. And if that does not become available by the time this video goes live, then please feel free to message me through Facebook and I will help you all I can, or I will send you a step-by-step. So we're going to take a look at some of the examples that I've already done. These are using the cake pans. The first one was done using a silicone cake pan, which you can see is very flexible, very easy to use. They release really well, so they work well, but it is harder to find a lot of designs in the silicone. But this stepping stone was done that way and then painted with an outdoor acrylic paint. Over here, we have a Wicked Witch that was done in a metal cake pan. She was also painted with the outdoor acrylic paints. Next we have an Emerald City that has gotten a little dirty, but that's okay. It was done with a castle cake pan, and with something like the Emerald City or any others that you may want to just tint a color, you can tint those using a exterior latex house paint. The problem with that is that you are going to have to choose a color that's very, very dark, because you cannot put a lot of paint in your concrete mix or it will break down the strength of the concrete. But if you do add a little bit of color, you can get some really nice stepping stones and then add accents to them later. Another example is the hot air balloon. Now, with this, I will tell you, I wanted to put State Fair, but I could not find letters at the time small enough. So I used wooden letters and went for Omaha. With this, you will want to commit to doing that in your pan, because you are going to have to use a super glue to attach your letters, and be sure to remember that you do have to do your letters mirrored. If you put them directly in and say Omaha, when you flip that out, it's going to be backwards. So be sure you mirror your letters and super glue them in. Otherwise, as you can see, this A, it actually shifted when I started adding the concrete to it, because I had put these down in the pan with hot glue gun. It did not hold. So if you will follow me over to the table, we will go ahead and start doing one in concrete. Okay, so first off, I'm going to show you what you're going to need. Once you decide what characters you want to do, the best place to get pans, of course, is thrift shops, if you can find them. Unfortunately, it's hit or miss. Then You could ask friends, family, whatever, if they have some of the old Wilton pans. Another way is to look online, places like eBay, Amazon, even Poshmark. These are some that are currently available. You can find them that are just full-on headshots. You can find full body. I would make a decision if you're going to do like the 4 characters. I would decide before you start which way you want to go. But they're going to run you on eBay probably around 20 bucks with shipping, which can get a little expensive. So if you're not in a hurry, I would start checking thrift shops and see what you can come up with. One other thing to keep in mind with the cake pans, they do come in different sizes. So as you can see by these two, this is what I would regularly use for a stepping stone. They do make them very small. This, of course, would not do very well for a stepping stone, so be sure you check your sizes before ordering online. Now, another type of pan you can use is like if you wanted to do, say, a brick that has your name or it says 2 Oz or whatever. These little pans are always at the thrift store. I wouldn't want to do a whole garden full of these for bricks, but it works great if you do want to personalize your yellow bricks. And you can get the plastic letters, you can get wooden letters, you can even use the scrapbooking letters as long as they are dimensional and puffy somewhat, because you do want to have that different dimension to it or it's just going to look like a brick. Okay, the other thing you're going to need is your concrete, of course. There are different types. This on the internet is what is most recommended for stepping stones. It is a very smooth concrete, but it is, if you'll notice, using 2 bags. One is a Portland cement, one is a sand topping mix. We are actually using the mortar mix today. That's the one that I normally use, and that's just because that's what I first found and I just kind of stuck with it. I think probably these hold up better, especially in extreme temperatures, but it may be something that you want to try. 1 bag will do approximately 10 to 12 stepping stones. So if you have 2 bags, of course, you're going to double that. You're going to need long latex gloves, the cleaning type that you use to wash dishes or use chemicals at home. You need a cooking spray so that you can spray your pans so that the concrete releases when it's done. You will need protective equipment, including preferably a respirator. Right now it's hard to find the N95s. This, of course, as you can tell, is a used N95 that I just happen to have in my building, so that's what I'm going to be using today. Mostly I use a respirator, but because you have to understand what I'm saying, I'm using the N95 today. You will need a water source. Now, if you are making a lot of stepping stones at once, I recommend that you mix your concrete a bag at a time to make a lot of stones, and it's easiest to do that in maybe a wheelbarrow is what I usually use. And I'll dump the whole bag in, and then I'll actually use the water hose as my water source and just add the water to it and stir it with something like a hoe. I have an old hoe that I use only for concrete, but I also have a wheelbarrow that's specifically for concrete, so you will mess up whatever you're using. Today, since I'm only making 1 stepping stone, just as an example, I am going to just mix it in a throwaway dollar store bowl, and I'm going to use a pitcher of water as my water source. One thing I did forget to mention you should probably wear safety glasses. I'm not gonna lie, but I could splash concrete in my eyes and go blind. So that's probably something you should do. Now, I've already shown you the letters. The next thing I'm going to show you is paint. To spray paint something that I want one solid color, this is the kind of paint that I recommend. It's a Rust-Oleum Professional High Performance Enamel. It holds up really well in outdoor conditions. I did find that they make a paint-on version. I have not tried that, so I'm not sure what to tell you, but I do like this spray paint. I don't know if you noticed in my patio, but I have yellow bricks in my patio. Some were painted with this paint, some were painted with regular spray paint. The regular spray paint ones are extremely faded at this point. So another way to paint them, especially with details, is to use an acrylic. You want to make sure it is an outdoor acrylic. Not all paints are going to say outdoor, but like this particular paint is a premium paint. Most of those are rated for outdoor use. And you can use regular acrylics as well, but you're probably going to find yourself painting your stepping stones quite often. So I am going to make sure that my table is set up. Basically, I want to make sure it's covered. I want to get any pans that I plan to use. I want to get everything together, because once you start, you're going to be messy. You're going to kind of want to work quickly. The cement does not set up instantly, but you just kind of want to be ready to go. So I am actually going to make a witch today. I'm going to get rid of these other pans and get them off my workspace. Now, put on my protective equipment. It helps a lot if you have someone that can help you with things. Just to do a plain stepping stone, it's not really necessary. You can do this by yourself, but it does help to have someone around, because once I start mixing my concrete, my hands are going to be wet, and I am not going to want to stick my hands back in this dry concrete bag, because that's going to ruin my concrete. So generally, if you can have someone around to help you, great. So I'm going to add water, and if you can see the dust coming off, that's why you want to wear your respirator while you're doing this, because it does produce a lot of dust. And basically you want to kind of just get it all moist and then just start mixing it. Now, one of the things about the concrete, if you buy the really cheap concrete, it's great for a lot of plain things, like if you are going to make a lot of bricks or something. But for anything with a lot of detail, you do not want to use the cheaper concrete, because it is full of gravel. Now these higher end mixes are going to have a little bit of gravel, but nowhere near what those are going to have. I think I need a little bit more. Now, if you mix it and find that you start pouring your stepping stone and you do not have enough, don't panic. Main thing is, while you're mixing a new batch, mixing a little bit more to add to it, just make sure that your stepping stone stays wet. So if you're working outside in the sun, just keep spraying a little bit of water on it just to keep it wet until you get your new concrete mixed up. Okay, so you want it to kind of be the consistency of like a slushy or applesauce. Too thick and it's going to cause problems, and too thin it's going to shrink a lot and cause problems. So now that we've mixed our concrete, we're going to take and spray our pan. So we open up the cooking spray. You don't want to do this before because you don't want the cooking spray to like just pool up. So I always wait till I'm ready to pour and then do a real good coat of the cooking spray. And then you just whoops. And it's also good if you work on a surface that's even, which I have nothing in my yard that's even. Once you get the concrete poured in, you just want to gently tap it. And I'm spilling more because I'm still in a very uneven spot. And when you gently tap it, it minimizes the air bubbles that are down on the face part or on the detailed part. As you can see, it's bringing bubbles up to the top and releasing them. That's a good thing. That's what you want. Now, you want to make sure that your stepping stone is somewhere between about 1.5 inches and 2 inches. That's a good size to go with. Now we've got one here that is ready to take out, so I will show you. When you have let it dry for the 24 hours, it'll start to pull away. That's exactly what you want. So all you need to do is hold on to it, turn it over. Sometimes it's going to come out easy, like now. Sometimes you may have to hit it a little. Just gently tap it to get it to come loose. Now, when you first take it out, you'll see that towards the top, where it was really dry, it's almost white. It's well, not white, but it is a very light gray. And you'll notice that on the face, it's much darker. That's because it is not fully dry, and it is not what we call cured. In order for it to cure, I would give it, after you've dumped it, I would give it another 24 to 48 hours before you try to paint it. Generally, I plan on a stepping stone taking me 3 days. So that's what you should get when this dries. And now, for those that are like me, that don't always want what everybody else has, or that likes the oddball things like the flying monkeys and the haunted trees and things like that, I'm going to show you how to make your own mold so that you can make a stepping stone that you can't find a cake pan for. So if you'll follow me over here, we'll get started on that. Okay, so to make your own silicone mold, what you are going to need to do is you're going to get some random objects that are used as your stepping stone base. You can use a cake pan, you can use a block of wood, this is a couple of bricks put together. You can even use an old stepping stone. You're going to want some air dry clay, which is what was used to make the lion. cardboard works great, which is what was used to make this monkey. Pretty much anything that is the size and shape that you want will work. And then you need tapes and glues. Now, the double-sided tape I use to kind of keep my cardboard pieces together. I use the school glue for the cardboard. The packaging tape, you'll see the use for it in a few minutes. It is something that you will probably need for the silicone mold itself. You will need silicone, and it has to be, the most important thing is 100% silicone. There's about 100 different silicone versions. As long as you get the 100% silicone, it's fine. You need cornstarch. You're going to need 2 tubes of silicone per stepping stone and 1 to 2 16-ounce packages of cornstarch per 2 tubes. So for 1 stepping stone, you're looking at this amount of stuff. Then you're going to need the silicone gun. One thing about the silicone gun, it does cut your tube and poke the membrane in your tube, but for our purposes, I'm going to show you a different way to open up your silicone, which will be using a box cutter. You also need protective gear for this. You need the long, heavy gloves that you used before. You need your respirators. Probably, again, you need safety glasses. You need a cheap bowl that you are willing to throw away, because you're never going to get all the stuff back out of it, and you're not going to want to use it for anything else. So, again, I recommend that you use a respirator. Today, I am using the N95 just so you can hear me talk. Now, what you're going to do for the air dry clay is great. You can use it, the kids, if you have kids, they can help you at this point of the project. Just create your sculpture. And with this one, I know it looks a little raggedy because air dry clay does not actually stick to non-stick pans. Imagine that. So as you can see, it just all popped loose. Even though it seemed like it was going to stay, it really did not. Now, this one I used a wood block, and this one actually air dried overnight, and it is on there pretty good. So if you take the clay and you use it and smash it into your wood, it should stay. It would most likely stick to concrete or bricks, so you could probably use it that way as well. Cardboard, I am loving this. This is something that I've actually discovered since being asked to do this project, because I wanted something that was very simple, that anybody could do. I used the cardboard. You can cut it with a box cutter. You can actually cut it with scissors. You just have to be very careful, because as you cut it, it will bend it. And if you get a lot of bends and creases in it, those are going to be noticeable in your mold when you're done. Now, I had some extra pieces because I did want to show you. I'm going to dump the poor lion. Everyone say goodbye to the lion. With your cardboard pieces, after you cut them, there's going to be holes and crevices because cardboard is a corrugated item. So you just want to take your Elmer's glue, and a lot of these holes I have already closed up, but you want to try to close up as much as you can, because the smoother your piece is, the smoother your mold is going to be. The smoother your mold is, the smoother your stepstone's going to be. So once you get all your pieces cut out, and you want to start out knowing what you're going to put them on, you get them all cut out, get them set out the way that you want them. Make sure everything fits on your stepping stone. If it doesn't, you'll need to trim it down. Now, alternative to this, if you are comfortable with woodworking, or if you have a husband that's comfortable with woodworking, instead of doing pans, what you can have your husband do is cut out a piece of wood for you. Even better than that, you could draw the shape of this monkey or whatever your item is, and you or your husband could cut the shape, and that would make a stepping stone more like the cake pan stepping stones. But for simplicity's sake, I really like these. Again, put them together. You use your glue. After you've sealed all your edges, you just start gluing it down, and you'll want to let it dry. Elmer's glue doesn't take very long, so it would be ready fairly quickly. Now, you have your piece, and you're ready to start making your silicone mold. Again, put on all your protective gear. Put it on properly, covering your nose and your mouth. Put on your gloves and your glasses if you're using them like you probably should. Now, again, this is a project that it actually really helps to have an extra hand around, but if you don't, it's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our silicone, and the cutter would actually cut it and just cut this tip off, and that's for basic usage, what most people are going to be using this for. But because we want to do it as quickly as possible, because it's about 5 minutes of playtime with this that you have, so you're wanting to do it quickly. So we're going to actually cut this further up the tube so that we get out a lot at one time. Excuse me. And I'm going to actually go ahead and cut both of them. But there is also a membrane on the inside of the tube that I don't know if you can see or not, but that is what the little stick on the end of your gun is for. It is to poke a hole in that membrane when you are ready to start pushing out your silicone. Now, what you'll want to do is go ahead and pour you some cornstarch in the bottom. And if any of you have ever watched your grandmother do homemade biscuits, especially if you're Southern, I'll guarantee you spent many a Saturday or Sunday mornings helping your grandma make biscuits out of buttermilk and flour. So you kind of want to do it that way. Put your cornstarch in, puncture your first tube. Get that open a little bit, and then you just want to place your tube in the gun, push the back piece down, and start squeezing. And you're going to squeeze it just continuously as fast as you can, and it does take a little bit of hand strength, so just do it as fast as you can. Now, you'll know you're done because not only will it be really hard to push anymore, but also this piece in the back will be all the way in. To empty this gun out and put the next one in, You just pull that out and your tube should come out, in theory. And we're going to leave that, what, say it.
It's caught on the end.
It's caught
where
on
your
the
thumb
end.
is. The tube.
Okay, we're going to hand that over to somebody else. We're going to start stirring this up and let him figure that out, and he'll tell me what was wrong with it, maybe.
It's caught right here.
Okay, he's saying it was caught right there, so we're going with that. So folks, if you can't get it out of there, call Travis. I'll be glad to give you his phone number, and he'll tell you how to fix it. It's probably just the panic of the moment, but it's okay. So basically what you're trying to do is you are trying to mix, and this stuff smells really bad. So you definitely want to have something very strong on your face. Don't do this with a regular dust mask or one of your cloth masks right now, because not only does it smell really bad, but it does have a lot of health warnings. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit more cornstarch, and we're going to go ahead and add our next tube. Again, you only have about 5 minutes to play with this. So you got to kind of do it as quickly as possible. Says the girl with no hand strength. Okay. So, we're going to keep mixing, and we're going to put a little bit on the top. If you touch the silicone a lot with your gloves, it will get stuck on your gloves and be even messier for you. So you're just wanting to keep rolling and kneading. And so far, I have not done too much cornstarch, so I'm sure there is a point where there's too much, but if you just keep adding a little bit at a time, you should be fine. And you just knead it and squish it, and as you can tell, it's getting really sticky again, so that means it needs more cornstarch. And that's a lot, but that's okay. We're going to put a little on the table because we're going to need it there in a minute. Once again, this is very messy, so make sure that you're not somewhere you're going to mess up doing this. And no, I will not be hosting a cooking show anytime soon, because this is about how I cook too. Making a disaster everywhere I go. Alright, so once you get this, and I can tell that the bottom is really sticky, so add more cornstarch. Right now I'm at about a package and a half of cornstarch. So by the time I'm done, I would say pretty close to the 2 16-ounce packages is about what you need. That's looking pretty good. It's basically like a biscuit dough is about what you want. As long as it's no longer sticky and sticking to your gloves, you're in good shape. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to lay it out on our table. I generally do this just to make it a little easier to put it on my stone. And we're going to just smash it out a little. You do not need a rolling pin, but what you can do is take one of your silicone containers that you're done with, which of course that one came out super easy, so that's the way it should be. And you can just use that silicone tube as a roller. So then once we've kind of got it about the shape we want it, about the size we need it to go on our stepping stone, we're going to just pick it up, lay it over. Then you just want to gently press it down. If you go too crazy, you will probably start knocking around pieces under there. And you don't want to do that because you'll end up with some crazy looking stuff. You just want to make sure you get it all the way down on these pans so that it is the 1.5 to 2 inches that you need. And then you also want to make sure that that top is flat. If it is not, then when you start to pour concrete in this silicone mold, it's going to distort the silicone and distort your stone. So we just want to kind of smooth that out. This also helps smash it down into your different levels. Okay, and this only takes about 30 minutes to dry, 20 to 30 minutes to dry, but it takes 24 hours to cure. If you are just planning on making one stepping stone and that's all you're going to do, you could use this after it's dried for the 20 minutes. I worry a little about using it just after it dried but is not cured. Just because I don't know chemical makeups and I don't know if it would deteriorate the silicone or not after a use or so. So I would generally, if you're going to use it more than once, just let it go the 30 or the 24 hours. And now I'm going to show you what this will look like when it's done. I also have an example of Mr. TikTok over here. I did a mold of him yesterday and let him set up, so I will show you what he turned out as a stepping stone, and I will be right back. Okay, so just a couple of tips before we start unwrapping everything, things that I did forget to mention during the rest of the video. If you are using cardboard in your design like the TikTok, you don't want to just make a cardboard cutout. You want to do different layers. As you can see in the monkey, I had several things that were one layer, several things that were 2 layers, and his mouth area was actually 3 layers. It was the back and then 2 layers of mouthpiece. You do that to create your different levels in your stepping stone to make it take a shape of a face or whatever you're making. Basically, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to make a stepping stone that's very elaborate, because it's going to be harder to do your mold. It's going to be harder to do your stepping stone. Simple is always best. You do not have to have any artistic skill. Poor little TikTok, he is like, just took a pair of scissors and started cutting on him. If you want to do that, that's great. If you want to take a coloring page, that would work as well. Just take your coloring page and trace out the different pieces that you want to add, and you can glue them. You can use, like with TikTok, I used the double-sided tape just to stick them all together. Now, I finished his mold yesterday. This is where your packaging tape comes in. When I finished the mold, I actually realized that this mold was a little bit larger than some of the round pieces. So this one really needed a little bit more silicone. So it has a few weak sides where it's really thin. And in order to just make sure that when I put the concrete in it stayed together, I went ahead and added that packaging tape just to support those sides. So now we're gonna start pulling that away. You don't want to pull it too much because you're not trying to tear up your mold. You're just kind of wanting to loosen it a little all around the edge. And then you'll pick it up, flip it over, set it down very carefully in case it's not fully dry. And then you'll just start to peel that away from your concrete very carefully. Again, your goal is just to pop it loose. It's not really to destroy your mold. Takes patience. He's coming out slowly but surely. He may not be completely dry. He's giving me a little bit of a fit, so I have a feeling he's going to still be wet, but we're going to hope for the best. And there he is. And there are a few pieces that broke off. That is my fault. That's not what yours will do. This is actually a repair job that I did. I had already done him and pulled him out too early. So I tried to repair him, didn't work out very well. But for our purposes, just so you can see what this turns into, I think you can tell. Just imagine that it's a complete stepping stone. And he's pretty handsome. Some of you with OCD will actually realize that his little hat band went askew. That is actually in the mold because I did not have his headband attached. So when I pressed the silicone onto this, it moved his headband. That's what happens if you do not make sure everything's attached before you start putting your silicone on. Now, we're going to go back to the piece that we just did. It's very dry feeling on the outside, so we should just be able to peel it off. Again, do it the same way with the concrete. Just slowly peel it away from that first edge. Make sure it's loose. Flip it over. And start peeling it up. May have to pull it from this way. And that's fine. Sometimes the cardboard and clay, especially the clay, will stick, and that's fine. All you have to do is just reach in there, pull it out. If it's the clay and it's really stuck, just tear it out. It's fine. So, there's our monkey mold, which we can now fill with concrete and have a cute little flying monkey head stepping stone. I really appreciate you joining me for this video. I know it's a lot. I say a lot. I know the voice moved in and out. I don't have equipment to do real videos. This is actually my very first video, so I appreciate your patience with me. Again, I have everything written down, and hopefully that can be attached to this same website. If not, again, please feel free to contact me on Facebook. I am in all of the probably the same clubs that you are, the International Wizard of Oz Club, the Everything Oz, Collectors United. So contact me through one of those, or contact me directly on Facebook, and I'll be glad to send you the file so that you have step-by-step instructions, and also a few extra tips that I probably missed during this video. And I hope you had fun. I hope you have some inspiration, and happy crafting.